Hey everybody, welcome to mini beginner's crash course to Elasticsearch and Kibana. My name is Lisa Jung and I'm a developer advocate at Elastic. So this is a series of short videos for developers who want to get started with Elasticsearch and Kibana. In episode 15, we learned about the metric aggregations and learned how to summarize our data as metrics with Elasticsearch and Kibana. Today, we'll talk about different types of bucket aggregations and do a deep dive on the date histogram aggregations. All right, so we're going to build on what we've learned during episode 15. So be sure to watch that episode before starting this one. And we're going to get organized here. So I have two windows open side by side. On the left, I have the Kibana console. On the right, I have the part 4 repo. And this repo contains all the aggregations requests we'll go over. And I've already scrolled down to limiting the scope of an aggregation section. So in episode 15, we ran various metric aggregations on all documents in our e-commerce data index. For example, we calculated the average of all unit prices of transactions, the documents in our index. But what if we want to limit the scope of our aggregation? For example, our index contains transaction data from multiple countries. So let's say we wanted to get the average unit price of items sold in Germany. So this requires us to perform metric aggregations on a subset of data, which is the transaction data of items sold in Germany. To do that, we could simply add a query to the metric aggregation. So let's scroll down to the example here. You'll see that this is a combination of query and aggregations. So the query clause defines a subset of documents that the aggregation should be performed on. So this request is saying, get search results from e-commerce data index. I only want the aggregations results, so don't bother fetching the top 10 hits. So first, query all documents that match the following criteria. Then run aggregations on the query data. Name this aggregations Germany average unit price, then get the average of all values of the field unit price over all query documents. This in turn will tell us the average unit price of items sold in Germany. So let's copy and paste that into the console. Make sure to select and send. You'll see that average unit price of items sold in Germany is 3.67. So by adding a query clause, we're able to perform aggregations on a subset of documents. But what if we want more? What if we wanted to aggregate on several subsets of documents? Well, that is where bucket aggregations come into play. So let's scroll down to that section. Okay, so let's say we want to calculate our monthly revenue. To calculate that, we need to group data into individual months, then calculate the revenue for each month. So in cases where we need to split data into several subsets of data, we use the bucket aggregations. So what this does is it splits the documents into subsets, also known as buckets, and all documents in a bucket share a common criteria. So this diagram shows you a bucket aggregation that splits documents into monthly buckets. So all April transactions are put into the April bucket, May transactions in May, and so on. So essentially, bucket aggregations split documents into several subsets known as buckets, so we could perform additional aggregations on each bucket if need be. So there are different ways you could group documents into buckets, and these are date histogram aggregation, range aggregation, and terms aggregation. And today we'll go over the date histogram aggregation. So let's scroll down to that section. So this is very useful when you want to group your data based on a time interval. So our transaction data has been collected over time from the year 2010 through 2011. And if we want insights about our transactions over time, our first instinct should be to run a date histogram aggregation. Now, there are two ways to define the time interval with date histogram aggregation. These are fixed interval and calendar interval. So with the fixed interval, the interval length is always constant. So if you wanted to see how many transactions occurred every 8 hours, the interval will always be 8 hours. So let's see what it looks like when we use a fixed interval with date histogram aggregation. So this is very similar to previous aggregations from the last episode. So we name our aggregation transactions by 8 hours. The type of aggregation I'm running is date histogram. I want you to run this aggregation on the field invoice date and want you to split the documents into fixed interval of 8-hour buckets. So let's copy and paste that into the console. Make sure to select and send. You'll see our aggregations results, which we name transactions by 8 hours. And if you look at line 20, you'll see the field called buckets, which is an array. And within it, a bucket is created for every 8-hour interval. And within each bucket, it shows you how many documents that were put into each bucket. Okay, so we just went over the fixed interval. Now let's talk about the calendar interval. So let's scroll down to that section. So with the calendar interval, the length of interval varies. For example, daylight savings can change the length of specific days. Months have different number of days, and leap seconds can be tacked on to a particular year. So a scenario where you might use this is when you want to calculate the monthly revenue. In this case, we know that some months have different number of days, but we're not so interested in looking at revenue over a constant number of days. We want to see our revenue by calendar month, so we would use the calendar interval for that. So let's see how we could write a request for this scenario. So let's scroll down to example. We're sending an aggregations request, which we'll name transactions by month. And we're running a date histogram aggregation on the field invoice date. And we're telling Elasticsearch to split data into monthly buckets. So let's copy and paste that into the console. Make sure to select and send. You'll see aggregations results, which we name transactions by month. Within the buckets array, you will see monthly buckets starting from December 1st of 2010, January 1st of 2011, February 1st, and so on. So let's break down each bucket. So the date is listed as a value for the field key as string. It also shows you the key, which is the date represented as a timestamp here. And you'll see how this comes into play in a little bit. You'll also see the number of documents that were included in each bucket. Now you probably noticed that these buckets were sorted in ascending order of dates. For example, it starts from December 1st of 2010, January 1st of 2011, and so on. Now remember, key values are dates represented as timestamps. And by default, the date histogram sorts the buckets based on the key values in ascending order. But what if you wanted to sort the buckets in descending order? Well, you could change that by adding an optional parameter called order. So let's scroll down to bucket sorting for date histogram aggregation. As you can see, the request is almost identical to the last one. But if you look below the field calendar interval, you'll see a parameter called order, and you open up another bracket and tell Elasticsearch that you want to sort based on key values in descending order. So let's copy and paste that into the console. Make sure to select and send. And you'll see that our first bucket is actually from December 1st of 2011 instead of 2010 like our last request. Next, we have November 1st of 2011, October 1st of 2011, and so on. So we pretty much reverse the order by using the order parameter. All right, we just learned about the date histogram aggregations and when you should use it. This content is an excerpt from the beginner's crash course to Elasticstack Part 4. And Part 4 is a full-length workshop where I talk about metric aggregations, bucket aggregations, and combined aggregations. And these aggregations are used to get different types of insights that we're looking for. So if you prefer the full-length workshop format, check out the link on the screen. And the link is also included in the description of this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Mini Beginner's Crash Course to Elasticsearch and Kibana.